and welcome to all of you. You're watching Tech 24. I'm Julia Seeger. Regulating or breaking up big tech? That's the question lawmakers in the U.S. are asking. Regulators are set to investigate whether tech juggernauts like Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Google have too much power. We'll talk more about this with the editor-in-chief of the IEEE computer magazine, David Greer. And in Test 24, we try the My Eye 2 by Orcam, a breakthrough wearable artificial vision device designed to assist people who are blind, visually impaired, or have reading disabilities. And we start here in France, where a new supercomputer has been inaugurated. Dubbed the Joliot-Curie, it's set to become the country's most powerful research supercomputers as it reaches 22 petaflops by 2020. And before we pursue this show, let's now turn right away to our tech expert, Dhananjay Khatalkar. Hello, Dan. We all have the same question in mind. What on earth is a petaflop?
Well, a petaflop stands for 1 million billion flops, and flops in turn stand for floating point operations per second. Now, this is essentially a unit of the measure of the computing speed of a machine. Just to give you an example, one floating point operation, it essentially means taking two numbers and doing mathematics on them, like multiplication. But these numbers are either very large or very small, and they have decimal places. So this is what a flop is. And peta, as I said, it's 10 raised to 15, and you can start from kilo, which is 10 raised to 3, then there's mega, then there's giga, then there's tera, then there's peta, and then there is exa.
Very well. Now that we have a better grasp of just how fast these computers are, let's learn more about how these machines are set to help advance scientific research. Yenna Lee and Nina Mason have this report.
It takes a 600 square meter storage room to house this device. France's latest supercomputer, the Joliot-Curie, is one of the most powerful machines of its kind in Europe. With 5 petabytes in data storage, a 300 gigabyte per second bandwidth, and a memory capacity of 400 terabytes, this supercomputer is as powerful as 75,000 desktop computers.
Currently, the Joliot-Curie has a 9.4 petaflop capacity. To give you an idea of what that means, this supercomputer does as many calculations every second as if everyone on Earth did one operation every second for 14 days.
Achieving what seems impossible for the human brain, these machines have become crucial in helping mankind understand certain phenomena, such as forecasting the weather, simulating the consequences of atomic bombs, and modeling aircraft and car engines. All of that takes place inside these cupboards, where the machine works 24/7.
The Joliot-Curie is not just a calculator. It also has storage space to host the results of its calculations. It then has a system that allows users to visualize and manipulate these results and put them in some kind of order to better understand them.
This is just the start for the Joliot-Curie. Its creators hope the machine will reach 22 petaflops by 2020, making it France's #1 supercomputer and a powerhouse for European research.
And we're still with our in-house expert, Dhananjay Khatalkar, who's going to help us dig a little bit deeper to understand what are the different applications of these supercomputers. We're going to start with the study of proteins.
Well, yes, proteins are the building blocks of life, and studying them is extremely important to not only understand their properties, but also to prepare or develop more efficient drugs. Now, when the molecular machines, ribosomes, they create proteins, the proteins go in a self-assembly mode. This is often referred to as protein folding. Now, simulating these protein folds using supercomputers takes a lot of effort, because protein folding, though it takes place in milliseconds, there are a lot of atomic interactions that have to be calculated. Now, right now supercomputers are able to simulate these protein foldings when proteins are isolated. But the key, or the big target for the next generation supercomputers, is to understand the protein behavior when they are a part of the cell, because cells, they have billions of atoms, and all these interactions, they have to be computed as a function of time. So it has to be computed at the same time and not independent of each other. So that's why the understanding the protein behavior in cell is the next big target. And this will help us, of course, as I mentioned you, in the drug delivery, and the use of supercomputers in drug delivery is also very helpful in reducing the amount of time it takes for the development of drugs, and also reducing the cost it takes for launching a new drug.
Now, the energy sector is also using a supercomputer.
Well, yes, the French petroleum giant Total, just to give you an example, is using a supercomputer called Pangea, which has a computing power of 6.7 petaflops. That's equivalent to the computing power of 80,000 laptops. And this particular computer is used in improving the accuracy of subsurface imaging. They are also able to incorporate 4D seismic data and optimize the development of oil fields.
Now, Janzi is another supercomputer here in France that was acquired by the research center CNRS, and it actually adds AI to it.
Well, yes, it's very important because it's a convergence of the raw computing power of a supercomputer and artificial intelligence capabilities. Now, this will help solve some extremely complex mathematical problems by making the system learn after it computes for the first time. So it doesn't have to compute again and again. So that will save a lot of power and effort. Secondly, the Janzi computer, it has a processing power, computing power of 14 petaflops. And scientists say that in the coming 5 years or 10 years, this field will explode, and we'll have computers easily reaching 1,000 petaflops.
Thank you very much, Dhananjay Khatalkar there. To the U.S. now, where calls to break up big tech are multiplying. The U.S. Congress has launched an antitrust inquiry into the 4 biggest tech giants, namely Google, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon. Lawmakers are trying to figure out whether these companies have too much power at the expense of healthy competition. Well, let's get more on this from the chief editor of the IEEE magazine, David Alan Greer. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Could you tell us a little bit more about what exactly Congress is reviewing and how realistic the prospect of breaking up big tech is?
Well, what it's reviewing is whether the big tech firms that you mentioned are controlling both the market and creating that market through their technology. And there is a congressional subcommittee that is looking into that and asking whether they should not be treated as different things, that someone should control the market and a different set of firms should control access to it.
Now, David, as a professor, you also have a historical perspective on this issue. Has the dominance of the few always prevailed in the tech industry in the U.S.?
It's been a fight. There's always been a conflict between having a large firm that can provide universal service, and you think of things like IBM in the 50s and 60s, or the American telephone system AT&T, which was broken up in the 80s. And there's a feeling that having more firms, at least more firms of a certain size, lowers prices and brings more services to the market. And at the same time, there is a desire to have a universal service that spreads across the country. But when you get that, you get a large firm that can control the market and can sort of make life difficult for other firms and for other organizations.
Now, it seems like so far EU antitrust enforcers have been a little bit more aggressive than in the U.S. Is that changing with this antitrust inquiry?
Well, certainly in the United States, there is now a group of people that is more interested in looking at these big platforms and seeing if indeed they have too much political power. There have been other cases, Microsoft in the 90s, for example, when the investigators moved on them, but they only really move when they feel that there is a political force there, a force of the company and the people around that company, that threaten the political order. So there is a little bit of a shift right now. We'll see how long this lasts. Traditionally, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time to adjust the antitrust playing field, to, if you will, break up these companies or suggest new ways for them to operate.
David Alan Greer, the chief editor of the IEEE computer magazine. Thank you very much for that indeed. And we're going to move on now to Test 24. And on the set of Test 24 this week, we try My Eye 2 by Orcam, a device that is already helping increase the independence of people who are blind or visually impaired. And I know, Dan, that you're very excited about this device because it is useful tech indeed.
Well, yes, this device is the size of a finger and can be easily attached to the side of glasses. And all you have to do is just put it and have any text in front of you, and this device will read it to you, whether it's printed text or text on your screens. Now, this device comes with a computer, a camera, and speakers. It has OCR capabilities, which is the optical character recognition, as well as deep learning abilities. Now, just to give you an example how it functions, all you have to do is put for example, I'm reading today's Le Monde, put the text in front of you, point your finger at the text you want it to read,
and it just read the headline.
Reading, absolutely. So it also has the capability of gesture recognition. So when you point the finger at a particular text, it takes a picture, it starts reading the text, and you can stop it to read by just another gesture by putting like a stop sign. So that's a very useful feature of this operation because it makes reading very easy.
And it does come at a hefty price?
Well, yes, the starting price is around 3,700 euros.
Thank you very much, Dan and Jay Kattlecar there. That brings us to the end of this week's edition of Tech 24, but you can watch it again on our website, france24.com. See you next time.